Now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today is the second feature we're covering today, and we're kicking off our month of horror movies with A Nightmare on Elm Street, starring Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Johnny Depp, Amanda Weiss, Nick Corey, Charles Fleischer, and Ronnie Blackley. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said during the introduction, starting a whole month of the spooky, of the macabre, of horror of Halloween. And we're kicking things off with the first out of 8 installments of A Nightmare on Elm Street. There's 7 in the original franchise, 8 if you count Freddy versus Jason. We're not taking a look at that one this year because we haven't covered Jason yet. So we'll have to put that one on the back burner. But 7 of the original Nightmare franchise and then the 2010 reboot. We're going to be taking a look at all those this month, as you've seen in the trailer. Let's get down to the original, though, shall we? The original film takes place in 1981 as teenager Tina Gray awakens from a terrifying nightmare in which a disfigured man wearing a blade-fixed glove attacks her in a boiler room. Upon awakening, Tina's mother points out 4 mysterious slashes on her nightgown. The following morning, Tina's best friend, Nancy Thompson, and Nancy's boyfriend, Glenn Lance, console her by revealing that they each had a nightmare the previous night as well. The two stay at Tina's house the next day when Tina's mother goes out of town, and it is there that she discovers that Nancy also had a nightmare about the very same disfigured man. Tina's boyfriend, Rod Lane, interrupts their sleepover and crashes the party, inviting himself to stay the night as well. When Tina ends up falling asleep, she once again dreams that the disfigured man is chasing her. Rod ends up being awakened by Tina's thrashing and sees her dragged and fatally slashed by an unseen force, forcing him to flee the scene as Nancy and Glenn awaken to find Tina bloodied and dead. The next day, Nancy's policeman father, Officer Don Thompson, arrests Rod despite his pleas of innocence. At school, Nancy falls asleep in class and dreams that the man chases her to the boiler room where she is cornered. She then deliberately burns her arm on a pipe in order to wake up. When she awakens, she notices a burn mark on her arm and realizes that she can bring things back from the dream world. Nancy then visits Rod at the police station where he describes Tina's death, along with his own recent nightmares about the same man who is now stalking Nancy in her dreams, making Nancy realize that the disfigured man killed Tina. At home, Nancy falls asleep in the bathtub and is nearly drowned by the man. Nancy then begins to depend on caffeine in order to stay awake, to the point where she invites Glenn to watch over her as she sleeps. In her dream, Nancy sees the man prepare to kill Rod in his cell, but then he turns his attention towards her. Nancy runs away and wakes up when her alarm goes off. The man kills Rod by wrapping bed sheets around his neck, staging it as a suicide via hanging. At Rod's funeral, Nancy's parents become worried when she begins to describe her dreams. As a result, her mother, Marge, takes her to a sleep disorder clinic where, in a dream, Nancy grabs the man's fedora with the name Fred Krueger written in it and pulls it into the real world. After barricading the house, Marge explains to Nancy that Krueger was an insane child murderer who killed 20 children but was released on a technicality and then burned alive by the parents of the victims that lived on the street seeking vigilante justice. Nancy realizes that Krueger, now a vengeful ghost, is killing her and her friends out of revenge, as well as to satiate his own psychopathic needs. Nancy tries to call Glenn to warn him, but his father prevents her from speaking to him. Glenn ends up falling asleep and as a result is killed by Krueger. Now alone, Nancy puts Marge to sleep and asks Dawn, who is across the street investigating Glenn's death, to break into the house in 20 minutes. Nancy then rigs booby traps around the house and grabs Krueger out of the dream world, bringing him into the real world. The booby traps affect Krueger just enough so that Nancy can light him on fire and lock him in the basement. Nancy then rushes to the door for help. The police arrive to find that Krueger has escaped from the basement. Nancy and Dawn go upstairs to find a burning Krueger smothering Marge in her bedroom. After Dawn extinguishes the fire, Krueger and Marge vanish into the bed. When Don leaves the room, Krueger rises from the bed behind Nancy. Realizing now that Krueger is powered by his victim's fear, she calmly turns her back on him, which causes Krueger to evaporate. The next day, Nancy steps outside into a bright and foggy morning where all of her friends and her mother are still alive. Nancy gets into Glenn's convertible to go to school when the green and red striped top suddenly comes down and locks them in as the car drives uncontrollably down the street. We then see girls in white dresses playing jump rope and chanting Krueger's nursery rhyme as Marge is grabbed by Krueger through the front door window and our movie comes to its close. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a classic. Robert Englund does an amazing job as Freddy Krueger. Heather Langenkamp, an amazing job as our heroine, Nancy. Johnny Depp, his very first movie role. So young, so baby-faced, so full of hope and joy. It's sad to see what his career turned into here in recent years with the whole Amber Heard thing. But going back to here, man, Johnny Depp was poised for the top of the world, a wave that he would ride for many years. The original Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street movie is an interesting concept because everybody has to sleep. And what do you do if somebody can literally kill you in your sleep? It's a fascinating topic and a fascinating point that Wes Craven created this mythos in, but there's unfortunately a point in the franchise, and we'll get there, but there's eventually a point in the franchise where it just becomes so hokey. And it started off with such great intentions. You know, this movie is a classic. I can't say enough great things about the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The way it was shot, the mood music, the theme. Again, Heather Langenkamp kind of riding that wave that Jamie Lee Curtis set for leading ladies with the Halloween franchise. And the same wave that people like Nev Campbell would then jump on when we get to Scream later this month. I don't know. Like, I wish that the original was a little bit longer. And even though we will get to this in part 3, I wish we got a little bit more of Freddy's backstory in the original. You know, we only get like the little throwaway about him being a child murderer. But I wish the original had given us a little bit more of the backstory that we'll eventually get in part 3. So be on the lookout for that review in a couple days. But overall, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, I keep saying it, it's a classic. It's not a 5-star classic, however, but I will give the original 4 out of 5 stars. I do feel like the original is worthy of that. What do you guys think? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's engage that conversation. Let's have that discussion. Let's have that interaction between host and viewer, fan. I'm curious to know what you guys think are the bright spots and the low spots of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And make sure you guys tune in later today, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media as we present yet another edition of Open Mic Night. Myself, Noah Foster, James Hebert, possibly Jeff Meacham, whoever else we can probably get to join us for the night, talking about some of the latest rumors and stories in professional wrestling. You're not going to want to miss out on that. And then tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, it'll be time for another edition of Renegades Reviews as we take a look at A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, starring Robert Englund, Mark Patton, Kim Myers, Clu Gulager, Hope Lane, Robert Russler, and Marshall Bell. And then at the top of the half hour, another installment of The War Zone, the weekly acquisition report, the show where I show you guys the newest additions to my ever-growing movie library. You're not going to want to miss out on any of that content, both right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, and of course on the Jeff Meacham Network, the multiverse of media. I have got so much content coming for you guys this month. It is frightening. Saturdays are double feature days because you get new release Saturday and you get the installments of 31 Days of Halloween. Sundays are double feature days because you get the War Zone plus whatever installment we're doing of the 31 Days of Halloween. Thursdays are double feature days because you get She-Hulk plus whatever installment we're doing in 31 Days of Halloween. Plus we got Stat Boy Sports Bar featuring Dory Lou. Plus we've got Dad's Not Always on Wrestling. Plus we've got watch-alongs, open mic nights, PLEs, the whole nine coming all month. So much content here on the channel. There is bound to be something to intrigue you to join. With that being said, to all my loyal fans and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and joining me here today. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that notification bell is turned on so you don't miss any content that is going to be coming to you this month right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, whether it's a video drop or a notification that we're going live. Can't miss any of it. Make sure you share this video with your family, friends, loved ones, co-workers, horror movie fanatics, Nightmare on Elm Street fanatics, Freddy Krueger fanatics, Johnny Depp fans, anybody you can think of that would enjoy this film review and this content, this video, share it with them. It's the only way we're going to boost my visibility in YouTube's algorithms so I can eventually get monetized, make some money on these endeavors. Thank you once again so much for tuning in. It means more to me than you'll ever know. And I will see you guys next time.